Hello everyone, Aquarium Basics. Not so basic, no, I don't know. So this video is about substrate. And, obviously a million people talk about this on YouTube, everyone's talking about it. And all I'm trying to do is give a little bit more of a personalized experience with this. And being that I tend to not listen to all the rules and things like that, I tend to kind of mess things up. So there are certain things that people say to do and work, and when you're kind of a beginner, you don't take it as seriously and you don't realize some of the serious outcomes that can happen. So this one is on substrate, okay? And, basically, I have put dirt and sand in the bottom of this. Originally, I started with gravel and a couple different kinds. First, I got the white pumicey little gravel, and it just looked really bad, really fake. It was painted, it's cheap, and and then I went on to say, well, okay, I want a little bit nicer gravel, obviously, so I got it all out, and I got some, bigger, round, stone kind of gravel, and I'm sure you're all well familiar with this. It's at every pet store. But the thing is that something I didn't realize is the stone, round, big stuff actually allows more debris to fall through and settle into the lower bottom area below the gravel. So if you had an under gravel filter, it might be actually a good way to go. But as far as having a gravel bottom, it was not a good way to go at all. For one is more vacuuming, and that's no good. And so the thing is it also... the main thing is that the rounder stones do not let the plant roots grab on as well to anything. If they have nothing to really hold on to, they slip out far more easily. And now, not to say that you can't grow plants in the larger stone-like gravel. And, I mean, just the littler stuff, the littler gravel that was more porous and things like that, the plants will grow on better, but once again, it's painted, there's nothing in there that's going to help that. So there are a number of, things you can buy that are like basically a gravel substrate with minerals. And actually, I kind of recommend those. They're really expensive though, and actually I can't even remember the name of them off the top of my head. If you go to the store and you say, hey, I'm looking for a mineralized or mineral substrate that's somewhat of a gravel, you'll see it. And it's like $25 for this little bag. And so, you're getting into a 50-gallon aquarium, you're going to have to buy about 5 bags of it, if not more. So, what happened to me is I actually bought some of that, but I only bought 1 bag because I really could not afford to buy much more. And I then was going to just mix it in with what this guy gave me a great deal on, which is this black diamond sand. It was very hard to find. I went to every hardware store asking if they had black sand, and they didn't. And, I'm sure, obviously anyone who's familiar with Hawaii, the Big Island, all the sand is black there. So I don't know, this diamond sand is not that sand. I have no idea where they get it from or what. And it's even still questionable to me whether or not that diamond sand is healthy for the fish. So, actually I've seen a lot of white sand bottoms, and it doesn't look that bad. And so I would say that, believe it or not, probably the Play-Doh sand or some of those sands that are just a regular sandbox, you got to wash the daylights out of it, those aren't so bad. Problem is, though, say that mineral substrate, rock, I think it comes in black or red. So, maybe the red might mix with your white sand, but suddenly there's some color issues, and that's why I really wanted to go with the darker bottom, just to kind of give it a more forest look. I wanted that dark sand. So as I'm putting in the sand and I'm, about to put in this other stuff, it kind of last minute decision was to go ahead and put some dirt in it. And I YouTubed a bunch of videos about dirt. I watched probably 10 or 15 videos about people who use substrate, and what's funny is from growing plants, everybody knows Miracle-Gro is garbage. I mean, just Miracle-Gro is like the worst thing you could possibly use on a plant. For one, because it's so fortified with the chemical ingredients that it's almost really too much. Miracle-Gro is for like the grandma that wants to put some, chrysanthemums or something in it, and she wants to just be able to water it once every 3 days, and that's it, and the chrysanthemums aren't going to die, they're going to still blossom. But as far as any kind of real scientific gardening where you really want to dial in everything really the plant needs and what it needs and stuff, Miracle-Gro is the last thing you want, ever. But for some reason, on every one of these videos, everyone's talking about Miracle-Gro. It's the organic choice. And so, yes, at least the organic is a step up. But I had a time in the past where I was growing some plants, and I used not organic choice, but it was a Miracle-Gro organic, and it was terrible. I mean, if you compare that to Happy Frog or some of those other ones, now mind you, when you get into Happy Frog and those things, you don't want that in your tank at all because it's got manures, it's got bat guanos, it's got, certain things that I just don't think anyone would want. So this Miracle-Gro choice is apparently it's chicken poultry, and so that's what they're using is some chicken manure. And, the guys are like, well, rinse it out, wash it out, and then there's like 2 or 3 guys who are like, oh, you don't really have to, So and then I did add some Osmocote, which actually I regret because the Osmocote Plus, which is another thing everybody's talking about, maybe just a little bit, but I think I just put too much in there. I watched some guy's video and he had, basically not blanketed the bottom, but several pellets. And if I could almost do it over, I would have just maybe tossed a few pellets into the areas where I knew the bigger plants were going to be. Because you really just don't want any of that stuff in your water. And so, I actually on another video, I did a video on nutrients, and it's in my water change video. And those nutrients alone that I add, organic, all natural, those are enough to feed your plants as long as you have some kind of mineralized or dirt substrate for the roots. But now here's the thing, is that everybody's saying Miracle-Gro choice or whatever, organic choice. And the problem with that is that it has a lot of bark in it. And that bark floats even when it's wet. So, my experience with pulling plants and just, certain things, like just moving plants and deciding you want to put in that wood, the wood piece you see on the left or right there, something like that, okay, I want to move this, or okay, I'm going to, put a little more depth here and push that out, those things, because of having this Miracle-Gro soil, just killed tons of fish. I mean, you would go to pull a plant out, and it would be this, like, pume of this Miracle-Gro bark going everywhere, and, and then another thing is that there were these, like, bubbles that were, from my understanding, like, not a nitrous bubble or anything, but it's like some kind of, off-gassing of some of the stuff that happens, and from the way the video put it is like, oh, you might build up a bubble. Well, this was like having an air stone under your substrate. It was just bubbling all the time. So now that I will say this is that if you are going to use the Miracle-Gro choice or whatever organic choice, get it wet and soak it for month. I mean, and then who wants to do that? You're setting your tank up that day. You want to get your tank going. You bought everything you need. Who wants to sit on a pan full of dirt for a month, So the thing is here, and unfortunately this goes right into buying the expensive stuff again, which is actually there is aquarium soil that is made for aquariums, and I've seen it. There was some aquascaper, very famous guy, and he put together an aquascape in like 3 hours or something, and whatever this soil was, and once again, I really apologize because I don't know the name, but you can easily look it up and find out. But this soil has no bark in it whatsoever. And I'm guessing it also has a certain amount of clay that gives it a little bit of hardness, because this guy didn't even cap it with sand. He had nothing to cap it with. He puts it in there loose and dry, and I watch him fill up that tank, and there is no sediment in that water at all. And I'm just going, oh my God, because compared to the organic choice or whatever, I mean, it was bad. I mean, I almost sometimes wonder if people, because now that I go back and I see these people's tanks who are boasting about Miracle-Gro, yeah, their water is cloudy. And, the thing is that the Miracle-Gro soil has no weight to it, and it's actually almost buoyant. So your plants have nothing to hold them down. And I will say that, Dustin's fish tank, he mentioned putting in clay globs, and it's like, what are you going to a pottery store and getting clay globs and mixing it? I mean, this is not practical. I mean, people should be able to have a product that basically does the job, and it takes freaking 10 minutes to put it in there, So, I mean, I understand DIY, but what I'll say is that actually through the course of moving a lot of plants around and things like that, I'll say that most of that Miracle-Gro soil has been excavated from the tank because it all floated to the top, or so there is still some soil, but I mean, it's hard to say that these plants are growing in soil with sand and with some of the whatever it is, the mineralized rock. If I could do it over, I would have used only mineralized rock and the sand. And I would have paid the money. I mean, and it's $100 for that. I mean, maybe more, depending, because I got a great deal on the sand. So, the thing about this is you do need a real substrate. I have a neighbor, he says, oh, I can grow it in sand, and plants, but he's not growing plants like this. I mean, you can make a plant grow in sand, but they're not going to look like this. They're not going to look like, a landscaper or someone, landscapers use soil. There's a reason for it, unless you're, hydroponics. But, and sand is okay in there too. I mean, I use a lot of sand. So, I mean, I hope this video helps you. I mean, I wish I had the name of the mineralized rock. It's so easy to find. You go to the pet store, you ask for it. And then the one thing is, so 3 things. Sand. That's the thing that goes on top. And, you want to clean it, wash it real good to where there's nothing floating around, no sediment, nothing, because that stuff could be really bad for the fish and the gills, because they take in the water through their mouths and then they blow it out their gills, so that sediment actually can get trapped in there too and stuff, so it's not good. And same with dirt sediment, so that's not healthy at all to have the dirt. So then second, what you would have below the sand and the sediment layer would probably be your mineral rock. I chose black. There's a red, and it's just basically like a azomite rock or some kind of rock. And then below that is the soil, and you could probably go with any of these just alone, but this is what I've done. So at the very bottom layer, the last main layer is, and unfortunately I used the Miracle-Gro Choice, and I do not want to recommend that to you at all. In fact, I will tell you right now, do not use any garden soils whatsoever, because they're all bark, and you do not want that bark chip in there. Peat moss, it floats too. I mean, it's just so difficult. If you were to really soak peat moss and have it weighed down by the sand, I can see that working, but same deal, it's going to be buoyant and a total mess. So what I would recommend is actually the Aquarium soil. They make it. It's like a clay. It looks like it looks like real dirt. It looks like dirt that sinks to the bottom. It's got, there's no, there's nothing in it. There's no bark. There's no little pellets. There's nothing that's going to, raise it up. And all that's left from those, a lot of Miracle-Gro and stuff, is just bark dust. So you're essentially, that's what they consider to be soil, is bark dust. And so this video is kind of long and take forever to upload, so I'm going to try and end it here within the minute. So your last layer is go out and get some good dirt from the store. I mean, research it, get aquarium dirt. Do not let these DIY people tell you to use the Miracle-Gro. It was very difficult. And like I said, one time I just wanted to kind of scoot a little of the substrate back to give it that little bit of kind of like hillside look in there, and it just covered the aquarium, and almost all my fish died. It was a horrible day. I mean, it was just trying to make a little bit of changes to the scape, and it just killed all the fish. So I do not recommend Miracle-Gro Choice, as I do not recommend any Miracle-Gro, Happy Frog, or any other brand. Black Gold, forget it. It's all got bark dust in it. So you want real dirt. Like, when you go to a baseball field and you see that dirt that's on the ground. In fact, that'd be your best bet, is to go to like a baseball field, grab the dirt and the clay or something from the ground. But anyway, you know, so on top of that, at the very bottom, if you really go sparingly, probably even in, let's say 1 Osmocote pellet, or maybe 2 per gallon. So if you have a 30-gallon tank, you could safely put maybe 30 little Osmocote plus balls down in the bottom. And it's not organic, and I just don't like it at all that I put it in there, because I am trying to make an organic tank. And unfortunately, that is one of my fibs, is in the very bottom of this tank is probably some still active Osmocote plus. And the problem with Osmocote is phosphate. There's a lot of, you need the nitrogen, you need the potassium and all that, but actually the phosphate's why probably I have such a beard algae problem, and I'm not proud of it at all. So anyway, yes, that's it. So Osmocote plus, if you're just using sand, maybe, you know, maybe 1 ball of Osmocote plus down into below the root would be about all I would recommend. Forget root tabs. They do the same thing. They're buoyant, float to the top. Suddenly all those chemicals in the root tabs and stuff are just floating in the water. Those root tabs are a total pain. I mean, the way that they break up on you, and if let's say the plant comes out of the water, or you want to one day pull the plant out, or anything, then all the nutrients from those root tabs go up into the water and kill the fish, because they can't take all that in the water. So anyway, that's it. I'll stop saying anyway, and I hope that really helps you on the substrate. So, you know, okay, real quick rehash. We got the small painted rocks. They're cheap, but the plants will hold on to them at least, especially the moss. But you're getting absolutely no nutrients. The bigger gravel that you see at the store, perfect for an undergravel filter, absolutely horrible for the plant's roots, and still offers no nutrition whatsoever. Then you've got the sand, which is a really popular way to go. At least it will hold the roots will grow in it, but still not much nutrients. Then you go into the rock nutrient, you know, pebbles or whatever, and it is like a pumice. It looks like those rocks that are crushed and painted that you see in a lot of like Walmart and stuff like that. And it's like $20 a bag. And that's probably your best bet, to be honest. And then lastly, if you're going to do dirt, you know, like I said, if it's going to be Miracle-Gro, God, soak it for a month. Don't even soak it, stir it up, get anything that floats to the top off it. I mean, and by that point, you know, seriously, you'd be better off just, you know, originally maybe going out and getting some dirt from the yard or something. But the dirt is a nasty way to go, although it does provide the plants with a lot of nutrients. So that's a quick rehash. And so that's it. And yeah, okay. All right, thanks. Aquarium Basics.